boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of Prime Video's new TV series based on the Alex Cross novel series written by James Patterson Cross. And this series stars Aldis Hodge, Isaiah Mustafa, and Juanita Jenkins. This show follows Alex Cross, a forensic psychiatrist, as well as a DC Metro detective, alongside his best friend and partner, Detective John Sampson, as they pursue some of America's most dangerous killers. Together, they navigate the perils of the criminal underworld while Alex strives to safeguard his family from its threats. This show, I was super excited about. I'm a big fan of this character. Not from the books. I didn't read the books, but from the the movies, that starred Morgan Freeman. What we had, Along Came a Spider and Kiss the Girls, I believe the name of it was. The two Alex Cross films that starred Morgan Freeman. I enjoyed those films. I enjoyed Morgan Freeman in those films. The less said, and I mean the less said, about the film adaptation that starred Tyler Perry as Alex Cross, the better. That was one of the worst movies ever made. But we're getting this TV show, and this show, I must say, was such an improvement, such an upgrade from those films. What I do know about the character in the novels, I do know that his family plays a big part in the novels. That's a very intricate part of his life in the novels. So this was an opportunity to explore that with this TV show, and as well as Aldris Hodge. This is kind of a new kind of a role for him, I guess you can say. I'm a fan of his. I enjoy him and most of the things that he do, but this is kind of a, Alex Cross. What I enjoyed about him from the films, at least from the Morgan Freeman films, is his intelligence. I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, and I love when it's more cerebral than punchy action all the time. I like to see a detective story actually do some detecting, and so that's what I enjoyed about it. And Eldris Hodge, he is kind of molded to be this action star. Now, there's action throughout this show, not your typical action where he's jumping on cars, jumping out of buildings and stuff like that. No. I mean, typical action, real world action, if that makes any sense. And he handled it fairly well in this show. I really enjoyed him as Alex Cross. I was a little worried going into this show. I was a little worried, not that he was going to be bad, just that he wouldn't fit, because even good actors are miscast in roles at times. You can go. I'm not going to start naming because I'll get in trouble. But there are certain roles that big time movie stars or actors shouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And so that's not the bugaboo. Is, can he handle this kind of a cerebral, intelligent, just ultra intelligent individual that was displayed in the novels as well as in a couple of the films? He did. I'm truly impressed. I really enjoyed it. What I loved about this show the most was the kind of homage to the black exploitation films from the 60s and 70s. Those old Shaft and even Foxy Browns and all that. It just had that feel. It's not set in that time, but with the score and the way that Alex Cross is displayed in this show as this cool individual. He was just cool, he just had that Shaft kind of a vibe about him that I really loved. And coming in a close second, and what I loved about it was something I hinted on earlier, was the family aspect. The family aspect of it was, I would say, the major part of this show. One of the most intriguing parts of this show. His kids and him trying to be a father, as well as this detective trying to solve these crimes, trying to solve the murder of his wife, and so on and so forth, and how that is affecting him. The murder of his wife affect him throughout his career in his life, and him being a father, and how that is kind of causing a rift between him and his kids, how it's causing a rift between him and his professional life, him and his relationships with another young lady that he's trying to move on, and have a relationship, a romantic relationship with another person, and it's causing a strain on that, and all the while we have this psycho killer that's running around DC and he's trying to solve this crime. I think it was well done. I really enjoyed this show. Now, it wasn't perfect. I do have some gripes. Some of the direction in a couple of the episodes, or should I say a few of the episodes, just didn't get there for me. The pace of it was kind of draggy at times, and you kind of want to get to the point. And we have a lot of storylines that are interwoven within this show, and it was a couple of episodes that felt like this was a waste. This was a wasted episode because we got nowhere with none of the storylines. We didn't push the story forward at all in no aspect, and it was very frustrating. It was just for maybe 1 or 2 episodes, to be honest with you. It's 8 episodes in total. But yeah, that was kind of meh. There were a couple of episodes here where it felt kind of, and I mean this with no disrespect, but it's the only way I can describe this. It was a couple of episodes that felt BET plus. It just felt cheap. And I'm trying not to be disrespectful to BET plus. God bless y'all. But it just didn't feel like a big show. It just felt so bleh. And not the show overall. I mean, it was like certain scenes just felt so cheaply done, and it just killed the vibe. It was like it changed the whole tone of the show to me. Now, this was early on, and it changed it so much that I was actually debating on continue watching the show. But it didn't last long, and it got back on track, and thank God that it did, because I enjoyed it throughout after that. But it was like early on, maybe episode 2 or 3, I was like, man, this is, I'm not liking this right here. I'm not liking this at all. And I gave it another shot. It picked up, you just had to kind of stomach it to get to the good stuff. It's like going into a steak and it's full of fat, and you had to cut through the fat to get to the meat. That's basically what you had to do. And it's fine, and once the show goes on and more stuff is explained, you kind of appreciate the other stuff, that didn't quite land at first. It all made sense in a sense. So I did appreciate it, but you have to be willing to get through it, and I would implore you to get through it. It's not bad. The whole show isn't like that. It just has those moments early on, but I did like it. I love the villain. I think the villain was very intelligent. I like the dynamic between Cross and the villain here. It was kind of, if I could compare it, it's like Sherlock Holmes and what's his foe, his nemesis name, Moriarty, whatever. Yeah, it was like that kind of dynamic. Not to the degree of that, but that's the only thing I can kind of compare it to right now off the top of my head. But I did like their back and forth, especially when we get to the episodes when they actually meet up and one knows the other is on to the other, and they're just doing these mental cerebral jabs at one another. And it was it was so smartly written and done and acted. I was enjoyed. I was on the edge of my seat watching that. It was a beautiful thing to watch. Uh yeah, I really did enjoy this. I really did. If you're a fan of Alex Cross, if you're a fan of the novels, like I said, I didn't read the novels. What I did do, before the show came out, I just did a whole like Alex Cross for Dummies rabbit hole plunge and looked up a little quick synopsis of it all, and just to get with the character, because I knew that they were going to dive into the core of the the novels, and I didn't want to be lost. Like, why they change this from the movie? This isn't accurate. And I wanted to be fair and say, okay, this is accurate. Actually, the movies weren't accurate. So, yeah, that was fun. It was fun to dive in and get some background of the character. Oh, I do have another gripe. I do have another gripe, and it's not the biggest thing, and it could be just my television. And if I'm wrong, let me know if I'm wrong or not. But actually, no, because I watched it on two different TVs. I was watching it in my living room, and then I end up going in my bedroom and watching it again, and it looked the same. This this show is really dark. And we have a show with some very dark melanin in it. These are some dark complected characters. Another reason why I enjoyed it too. We don't get a lot of this, and me being a dark complected individual, it brought my heart joy to see a dark skinned person on TV in a lead role. A tear ran down my eye, but it wasn't lit very well. It just, I don't know, man. And it wasn't the whole show. The whole show wasn't like that. It was like in closed quarters areas. It wasn't lit well, and I didn't like it. It was too dark. And I would say, for Aldris Hodge, but even in scenes where he wasn't in, the dark was the dark. Now, I don't know if it was the settings on my television screen, but like I said, I watched it on two separate televisions, and I can't imagine they both have the same dark setting. But it's possible. It's possible, but I doubt it. It just because I've seen shows where they had dark skinned people in, and it was lit properly. It was lit better than that, to kind of accent those characters, or those actors, I should say. And this really didn't do that very well. I wish they would have lit it up a little better, but that's just a nitpick for me. And like I said, I'm not gonna ding the show for that, because it's possible it could have been my television, but I don't think that it was. But besides all that, you're willing to look past all that. If you love detective stories, if you love crime thrillers, if you love the character of Alex Cross, whether it's in the films or the novels, I think you would love this show. I give Cross, which is currently on Prime Video, all 8 episodes, a letter grade of a B+. This was a really good show. I highly recommend it. Me and my wife, we watched it in 1.5 days. Sat down and watched it over the weekend. Really enjoyed it. I really did. It caught me by surprise, in a sense, because I was expecting to like it, but I wasn't expecting to like it this much. But I would love to know your thoughts of Cross. Have you checked it out? Are you planning on checking it out? Let me know by email. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Like this video as well. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Cross, which is currently on Prime Video. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.